Hello, readers by eyes and by ears. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Oh, this is Marty Chan. How did I flip it like that? Anyway, not that that matters. I hope you all are having a fabulous day, and I hope you all enjoyed the first few chapters of Peerless by Mengxi Shi. Let's not get distracted though. The reason we are here is because I didn't see many comments, but I know it's taking people some time to catch up. I guess because the speed of my reading is actually fast to some of you, which I'd be feeling like it's slow. But anyway, we're here to discuss my favorite aspects of the disabled tyrant's beloved pet fish, also known as Canji Baojuan de Jiangxing Yu Chong by Xue Shan Fei Hu. More specifically, we are going to talk about my overall likes of this beautiful fluffy series. Then we're going to talk about a couple of my dislikes, and then I'd like to share my top 5 favorite comments and maybe a couple of honorable mentions. It was really hard because there were so many comments, and I was trying to click some that maybe had a little bit more depth, but also picking some that were kind of shorter so I'm not sitting here blabbing on forever and ever and ever. Nevertheless, let us 开始, which means to begin. So, let's go ahead and start with my very first favorite thing. The first thing that I really love about this series overall is the voice of Li Yu, or should I say Li Yu? Those are the correct tones for his name. He is a very comical character and very akin to Shen Qingqiu from SVSSS, even though they are still both very different. And I think Liu is a bit more self-aware than Shen Qingqiu. Nevertheless, his inner thoughts are very silly. But one of the things I love about him, aside from him just being such a comedic character, is he's genuinely a nice guy, very caring for others, even those who may have wronged him or were trying to wrong him, or someone he cares about, which is something that I can relate to very much. I am an individual, that grew up with just a kind heart. I was never really one to seek out revenge, getting back at people, or even just being mean in general. I was definitely one of those people who always tried to understand others, even when they wronged me. And I was able to relate to him so much from that perspective. And then it's the same thing with him being level-headed. I love that about him as well. Don't get me wrong, we all have our moments where we're not so level-headed and we do allow our emotions to get the best of us. But overall, throughout this entire series, he keeps a good head on his shoulders. He thinks things through, or if he does, do something and he's just kind of acting crazy. Like, I guess the moment where he was like, "Oh, you lied to me, Prince Ting." He went back and he did some reflection. And that's one of the things that I absolutely love. I love self-reflection so much. I pretty much reflect all the time when certain conflicts come in. When all conflicts come in. Sometimes I think I reflect too much. But anyway, so I love that about him as well. And then, of course, I love that he is very creative and innovative, even if sometimes his creativeness is leaning more so on the side of his attraction to Prince Ting. The other thing that I love is that the author puts in this aspect of him not being able to resist his fishy tendencies. I don't know. I just really, really like that because it makes him seem more, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but let me give a comparison. With Shen Qingqiu in Scum Villain, he was placed, with Shen Yuan, placed into Shen Qingqiu's body, he was aware of the difference between him and the character he was playing. And he put on a front to be more cold, be, more subtle with certain things, be more expressionless, to put on the facade of Shen Qingqiu instead of just being Shen Yuan in Shen Qingqiu's body, even though we got to see it seep through a little bit. But with Li Yu, it's like with him becoming a fish, he's aware that he's a fish, and he's aware that that's not his original form. But at the same time, even with that awareness, He can't help but be excited when he sees food. He can't help but be excited when he's being rubbed, which I don't know if fish really like that, but let's just pretend they do. He likes that feeling, or even when we get later in the book and it's like, oh, he was in his human form, but as soon as he smelled the fish food, he got really excited and had to stop himself from wanting to eat it. Like, I just love that because it makes him more personable, and I guess it makes his transition from like human to fish so much easier. And I just think it's cool. It makes it more believable, even more realistic, because I doubt if, one of us transmigrated into a dog's body that we wouldn't have those instincts like, oh, there's my tail. Let me chase it. Or, if you vomited, like, let me just taste this vomit. Why do dogs like to do that? I learned, but I forgot. Anyway, so yeah, I just feel like it makes it more believable. And I feel like our brains would just be chemically wired to the body that we are now in. And maybe that's the difference between Li Yu and Shen Qingqiu. Shen Qingqiu was put inside of another human's body, whereas Li Yu was put into an animal. So who knows? Maybe the chemical engineering, the animal instincts and stuff like that, they just are different when it comes to transmigration. And the last thing I want to say about my favorite aspects before I move to just like my favorite character, I mentioned this at the end of one of my videos. The author is very good at making it clear that Li Yu and Prince Jing are having sex without putting in the excruciating details. Of course, I love excruciating details. I love smut. And y'all know, many women love to read smut. But this is a book that does not have smut. And I think compared to other books, for instance, like Stars of Chaos and even Thousand Autumns, I think the author did such an amazing job of letting us know that they were having sex. It wasn't flowery or poetic and super, super fade to black that you're kind of just wondering, is that what happened? Like, I know that was the case sometimes with Golden Terrace when I was taking a peek at it. But it was like, no, they're having sex. This is what they're doing. We're going to make sure you know. And it was just straight to the point so that you knew that they had a nice, healthy sexual relationship with each other. And so I really, really appreciate that. I would probably say that's my second favorite thing overall, aside from how Xue Shan Fei wrote Li Yu's character. So obviously, moving on to my favorite characters, I think it goes without saying that it's Li Yu. I won't say anything more on that because I've already raved about him. So my second favorite character, or I'll even say my favorite side character. Yes, let's do that. It's going to be Wang Gongong or Wang Xi because he's so funny. But I also just love how he gets Prince Ting so much that, I mean, this man is mute, but Wang Xi is able to understand him, what he wants in the moment, what he wants later on, when he knows he needs to shut up or when he needs to kick someone out for Prince Ting. He's just so connected to his prince, and I love that so much. And then he's so funny. And he's so bold too. Like when it came to speaking to the sixth prince, he, called him irrelevant one time. And I was like, wow, you're not scared at all of losing your life. But anyway, I wish we could have gotten a little bit more of Wang Xi, just a tad bit more. But I guess what the author gave us is okay. Maybe adding more aspects of Wang Xi would have taken away from the focus, made the story longer in areas that it really didn't need to be. But I like Wang Xi. The only thing I didn't like about Wang Xi is him not knowing that Li Yu was a fish. And I'm not necessarily saying that's bad on his part because, even though reading, sometimes I'm like, Wang Xi, it's right there. Like, you should know. I'm on the outside looking in. That omniscience that I have as the reader of the story. So maybe in the moment, it really isn't as obvious as I think it is. But again, I'm not sure if that's necessarily something I can talk about, oh, this is Wang Xi's fault, or rather that's just like me being like, Xue Shan Fei Hu, like, why? So those are pretty much all of the things that I love about this story. So we are going to move to some things that I wish could have been done better. This is not bashing the book or anything like that, but at the same time, we don't have to read books and be like, everything was perfect, everything was great. We can have opinions about things we think could have improved. So, I only have 3 things. And I'm sure if y'all been listening along, y'all already know what the first thing is because I complained about it so much. And that is Liyu's obliviousness, thinking that his fishy identity was secure when it was no longer secure. Obviously, no longer secure. That just went on for way too long. Like, I feel like he should have realized sooner in the series that Prince Ting was aware of him being a fish. That, I just could not get over that. And when he finally found out, I was like, final fucking Lee. Sorry. Final freaking Lee. For those who don't cuss. I don't really cuss either, but sometimes I find myself doing it. I'm not big on it though. Anyway, so the next thing is a very picky thing, because I love English so much, and I was only an English major for like 6 months, but I've always loved the English language, and studying its grammar and everything like that. And don't get me wrong, I definitely make my own mistakes, which is why I don't harp on people for it at all. But one thing that just was so freaking annoying to me is that it's the way the author starts their sentences with the name or word in succession. Like, for example, if I say, the child went to the store, the child entered the store, the child looked at the bag of chips that they wanted and decided to buy it, the child was happy. Every sentence starts with the. And I've learned as a writer myself that starting the sentence with the same word repeatedly is something that can take away from the reader's experience, even if they don't consciously know why they're not liking something as much as they could. Not only that, but depending, which this happened in the book sometimes too, also having like the same cadence or the same amount of syllables in a sentence could harm the reading experience. You know, like if da 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 da. It's also a very musical thing as well, which we are all musical creatures, even if you're not someone who makes music. And so, like I said, the child was happy. The child went to the store. Those are very much the same rhythmically. It would be different if, it was like one day the child was sitting and realized that they were hungry. When they looked at the options they had to eat, it was all food that had to be made. Well, he or she decided that they didn't want to make any food, and so instead got up and decided to go to the store. When they went to the store, their eyes were searching for something that stood out, and then he found it. So the other thing that was upsetting to me is the author using the person's name too many times, which here you notice in my example, I said the child, he, and mixed it up. But there would literally be times where Xue Shan Fei, or the translator, would be like, Prince Ting looked at Li Yu. Prince Ting didn't understand why Li Yu was like this, but Prince Ting was willing to listen. And it's like, why did you say Prince Ting so much? Like, say Prince Ting, say he, say the prince, say Li Yu, say he, say the fish in such a small amount of time or in such a small bubble, because it just breaks it up and allows the brain to digest it more easily and more happily. So again, I don't know if that happened necessarily for anyone else, but for those who are like me, if you know, you know, as the K-pop group said, if you know, you know. Simma, 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 simma. Simma, 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 simma. I don't know the words, you guys. So next we're going on to the next thing, which is my last thing. And this is not necessarily like a bad thing. This was just like a personal gripe because I really, really wanted to know how this was going to come to fruition. And that is how the author completely bypassed how Liu delivered his baby girl. I wanted to know where they were going to go with that, how they were going to make it happen, because they were like, he'd have to push. And I was like, push where? I was like, is the baby going to fall out of his ass? Is it going to come out of the hole in his penis? Like, where is he pushing? And both sound completely horrifying, worse than a woman's experience. It sounds unlivable after giving birth. It sounds impossible. And so I really wanted to hear a little bit more detail. And I know that some people probably didn't want that because impreg is kind of it's a touchy subject for those who like Danmei because it's, well, let's not go into that. The point is, I wanted to know. But instead, he ended up just feeling pain and then passing out and waking up, and the baby was there. Because in my mind, I'm like thinking the only way that a man could give birth is to have a C-section. That's how my mind was thinking, because pushing a baby out of his booty hole just sounds too, So I was like, dang. But maybe it didn't need to be there. I don't know. Maybe if it was put in there, then I'd be like, what the hell is this? But since it wasn't there, I really wanted it. Anyway, we are done with that. So those are my thoughts. So now let's go over some of my favorite comments, which it was really hard to choose because there are so many, and I was trying to pick some from like all of the books, but I don't think I really got any from the first because I got tired of looking. Which, by the way, I also want to say, for those of you who comment, YouTube lets me know about those and I always respond to you guys. But I did notice that there were lots of comments that I hadn't responded to in a response to my response, because YouTube didn't make me aware that, oh, after you commented on this response, they commented again, or someone else commented on the comment. I was like, how dare you? So anyway, if you guys are commenting on a comment and not receiving a response, I'm so sorry. That's why. And it's probably going to be like that a lot, except for when I get to moments like this at the end of a series where I share my thoughts and I'm going to pick my favorite comments and then just like see, oh, and let me go through them. So that's that. I digress though. Let me go to my favorite comments. So one of my favorite comments that was actually very, very recent was from Cuppy Wuppy 001. They said, Princeton really wants to help Liu properly absorb essence. LMAO. And I just thought it was funny because it was to me, when we think about the story and Princeton thinking he's a Yao and like, oh, he needs essence in order to survive. He was ready. Like before they were together, Princeton was like, come suck my essence, baby. And Liu, meanwhile, is just like, I just need to give him a little peck. I just need to lay on a pillow next to him. It was funny. So, he's like, is he gonna die if he doesn't get enough essence from me? How can I get this fishy to, screw me? Okay. So thank you, Cuppy Wuppy 001 for that one. One of my next favorite comments is actually from Beanza. I hope I'm saying that right. But anyway, they said, I swear, chapter 135, clickbaity title, crying emoji. I knew it was clickbait too, even before getting to that chapter. And so I think we talked about it a little bit more. They had another comment and I responded to it. So yes, one of the things that I noticed while I was reading, even before I read this comment, was that a lot of the chapter titles were clickbaity, because it would say something and then that most times that thing wouldn't even happen until like the end, or it would be what it was going to lead up to in the next chapter. And I was like, how dare you? What are you doing? So I just thought that was an interesting comment because it was something I totally noticed. And I don't know if any of you other people noticed that, but if you did, like, please let me know. So then the next one that I loved is by JEH07. And again, these are like the later comments. But they said, when the princess said, "Come back soon," I was like, hope for him to come back safe. You can come back soon in a coffin too. It was so funny because it's so true. Also, I did see plenty of comments from people that were like, yeah, I thought he was going to die as well. So it's just nice to know that I wasn't alone in my fears for Ye Qinghuang's life, because your girl was scared. So, how many was that? Hold on. One, two, three. Yes. So I have two more that I will talk about, and then the other ones will just be like some honorable mentions. So another one, which was from a little while ago, is from not sure how you say this name. So I'm just gonna say it's from Hieils Hiles Mine, Mine. Anyway, it said, I think it's a shock factor, and depending on how policed the transmigrator is in their action, a disassociation with who they are. Being in a completely new body while pretending to be someone else, yeah, I can see it taking someone stating the obvious for me to register. That's why I'm more understanding of Shen Yuan and SVSSS, not only in the system policing his actions, but the punishments. They did nothing to help the change in mindset. So I'm just letting you guys know, no matter what comment you leave, I love them all. But I especially love comments where people are, well, they're longer comments, really, usually, but you're more in depth, focusing on maybe psychological aspects of a character and why they may have responded the way they did, or thought the way they did, moved the way they did. And with this person, we, chatted a little bit about the disassociative aspects of a person, and how it would affect what they do. So I really appreciated that comment. Now, another one that I really liked, which was from Desinis 239. Sorry if I'm not saying that right. It said, in quote, "He probably hadn't caused any chaos then," unquote. Li Yu, in the single most inaccurate statement of the entire book. Because you know what? Li Yu caused nothing but chaos, even though a lot of it was, good chaos. He caused nothing but. So it was just funny because Li Yu, you're so wrong. You've caused so much. So now a couple more honorable mentions. One was from Roaming Time, and it says, "Stop! Way too cute! I'm honestly so glad I live alone, as if people could hear me squealing with cuteness overload while listening to this whole time, it would be a bit embarrassing." And you know what? I feel it. Because I laughed so much during this series. And if other people could hear me, I would probably be a bit embarrassed as well. Like, holy shit. So I loved that comment. And then the last one was from Maya Hiranoyama. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Excuse me. Maya Hiranayama 1191. "The Guppy's missions are usually easy to complete." Yeah, I am pretty sure now that Li Yu is not the first Yao around in this world. I'm sure you guys can pretty much guess why I like that comment and put it as an honorable mention. Because yeah, definitely when I saw that, when the system said that as well, I was like, okay, so how many people have turned into fish bones and fish ash? Because they weren't able to complete your insane missions. So anyway, that is all I have to say about this series. I don't want this video to be too much longer. So again, please let me know your favorite aspects about this series. Let me know your favorite character. And if you did have something that you wish was in the book, could have been improved, or just something you flat out disliked, I would love to hear them in the comments. Share those thoughts with me. And yeah, I'll see you all next time as we continue to dive into the new series. Well, it's not a new series, but into the new series on my channel, Peerless. Yeah, well, Einneman.